If you'd like to see how I make my press-on nails and how I did this spring-themed nail art, please keep watching. So the first step to making press-on nails is choosing full cover tips. These ones are from Nails by Deb. They are the full cover square tips. These are really great in my opinion, and these are my go-to. I feel like choosing a really high quality full cover tip to use is the key to long-lasting and durable press-ons. And then you'll just need a press-on nail stand. These are a pretty standard press-on nail stand. They're magnetic, and you can find a bunch on Amazon. Next, you'll just want something that'll help your press-on nails stick to the press-on nail stand. I like to use this putty. It's pretty easy to mold with your fingers like I'm doing here, and then you just want to fit it to the nail stand and flatten it as much as you can. And then you'll take your full cover tip and kind of place it towards the middle and press down and just make sure it's all nice and secure. And then next you'll want to cut down your nail tips to your preferred length. If you don't need to cut them down, you can skip this step. For this particular set, I did want to cut them down a little bit. These particular nail tips are an XXL length, so I was trying to figure out how short I wanted them to be. Keep in mind you're going to file a little bit with the hand file, so you don't want to cut them too short, but just trim off as much as you need to your desired length. These are the same nail tip cutters I use for half cover tips as well. And the next step is going in with your hand file to further refine the shape and just make it as clean and crisp of a shape as you can, since we are going to be applying gel polish. I'm using an 80/80 grit hand file here. If you're not used to these, I would recommend using 100 over 180 grit. These are pretty sharp, and a little bit goes a long way, so you won't need to put as much pressure if you are using this for a full cover tip. And just be careful. You don't need to apply as much pressure, as I said, but I feel like since it is such a sharp file, it's just the best for getting like that crispy and really clean free edge, making sure it's as square as possible. I also like to file at this 45-degree angle at the very end, just again to make sure that free edge is as square as possible. The more you file with this motion, it will actually create a sort of half moon shape, which I like for certain sets as well. Next, we are taking a sanding band just to remove the shine. This helps your gel polish stick better as well and adhere better to that plastic nail tip. This is a 240 grit sanding band, so it's very fine. This is something that I would use like on the natural nail as well for nail prep. I'm using it at a low speed, and I'm just running it along the entire nail to make sure that I remove all the shine. And you could also buff instead. I just prefer to do this, and I feel like because this is such a fine grit, it works well. It doesn't make the nail too rough, but it does enough to remove the shine and help that gel polish stick better. And all of my press-on nail favorites can be found on my Amazon storefront, which will be in the description. It's also linked on my YouTube profile. And I am an Amazon affiliate, so I do earn commission on anything you purchase through my storefront, but of course it's highly appreciated. I have several idea lists there. I have a press-on nail list, and then I also have just some general nail favorites as well. Next, we are taking a little bit of Young Nail Swipe and just wiping off that dust and making sure we have a nice clean surface to work on as we move on to the actual press-on nail art. Just be a little careful if you are using Young Nail Swipe. It does have acetone in it, and acetone will melt the plastic tips if you use too much, so just a little bit goes a long way. You can also use rubbing alcohol. I just really like the Young Nail Swipe, and I feel like it works a little bit better. And now moving on to the fun part, the nail art. I wanted to do a spring theme nail set, and I wanted to incorporate some green. So starting off with some French tips, I wanted to use this really nice brownish color from Nails by Deb. It's called Bare It All. It looks a little different in this particular angle just with the flash. It's not as yellow as it seems here. But it's just a really nice base color for French tips. And so I am just polishing that on the entire nail. I end up doing 2 coats, and I do cure between each one. And it's just trying to make sure that I cover the entire nail and have a smooth coverage. And for the green, I am using this color from Seaweed Gel. It's called Pretty and Sage. This is like one of my all-time favorite green gel polishes that I have in my collection. It's just like this really nice, earthy, sage green color. And so I wanted to use this for the French tip. So I am just putting it on my nail art palette. And then I am going to apply some Young Nails Protein Bond. This step is optional, but I struggle with French tips. I think hand-painted French tips are really hard, and it's something I'm trying to work on and not be afraid of hand-painted French tips. They are not as easy as they seem. I've also seen people do a matte top coat before drawing their French tip. I haven't tried that, but I have tried the Young Nails Protein Bond, and I feel like it just creates an anchor to help that gel polish stick to and create a more crisp French tip. So now moving on to drawing the French tip, you want to just use a really long liner brush and draw those 2 lines to the center and then basically fill it in. And don't worry about this being perfect. I take the approach of drawing it the best I can and then using a cleanup brush, and this helped me a lot. So this is the nail art brush that I use to clean it up. It's kind of a 3D brush. I believe it's called the Accomor nail art brush, and it is a 3D nail art brush. I believe that's how it's described on Amazon. It's on my storefront. It has kind of like a rounded tip, which really helps get in there and carve out that French tip and create a really clean line. And it's really helpful. Like I said, hand-painted Frenchies are not easy, so this has helped me a lot and has helped me draw them a little bit faster as well. And then just a really quick clip of the top coat application, which is always the most satisfying part. I am using Kupa top coat, which is my favorite at the moment, and just putting on an even layer. And then I like to file a little bit after I apply the top coat, especially when doing press-ons. You apply so many layers of gel polish, so it's just really nice to do a final file and do it very carefully, just to make sure you haven't lost that square shape. And then just wiping it all off with rubbing alcohol and getting rid of any dust. And you can see here by this point, the press-on nail had gotten a little bit loose. For the most part, the putty helps it stay, but if it does come loose, you can just kind of readjust or add more putty if needed. And here is the final look for that French tip. And now we are going to move on to the Bambi nail art design, which I don't do character nail art that often, but it's something I want to, again, try more of. And so I am using the black shading gel from Nails by Dev to create an outline. I had a reference image I was looking at on my iPad. I'm actually going to have a separate YouTube video on this nail art, the Bambi nail art, that's way more slowed down and in detail. I just wanted to include some of it in this video because it was all part of this nail set, but this really needs its own separate video because it did take a while to draw. Character art is not easy and it just takes way more time and patience, but I wanted to include some of it. And that's all for this video. This is how I make my press-on nails. Thank you for watching.